I am Maris Ellington, 62 years old. I had kept the birthday small on purpose. Just a few plates of food I made myself, and decorations I found at a thrift store the week before. Selwood was quiet that afternoon. The kind of quiet that made me believe maybe a simple evening could still feel warm if I tried hard enough. I set out the cake last, smoothing the frosting with the back of a spoon, the way Evan had liked when he was little. Their car door shut outside. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Evan stepped in first, offering a smile that barely held. Harper followed shortly after, already scanning the room. Her steps light but deliberate. Her presence carried the faint scent of perfume before her words reached me. "Didn't realize we were doing an early dinner," she said, glancing at the clock on my wall. "It's still your birthday, Mom," Evan added. But his voice was thin, as if he were repeating something decided earlier without him. I offered them plates. Harper accepted hers with 2 fingers, like the casserole might burn her. "You used the old dish again," she murmured. "The one with the chip." I nodded, pretending not to hear the judgment tucked inside her tone. "It still works just fine," I said. The 3 of us settled awkwardly at the table. I tried asking about their week, about Evan's project at work, about anything that might soften the edges. But every answer was clipped short. Harper leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Is this the whole cake?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I wanted something simple." She raised her eyebrows, then looked at Evan, and he looked down at his plate. When I lit the candle, the room felt tight, like someone had pulled a string between the 3 of us. I pushed the cake toward them, waiting for a smile, a laugh, anything. Instead, Harper exhaled sharply. "Honestly," she said, "nobody needs this party. Nobody needs you." Her voice didn't waver. She said it as if it were a fact, something long agreed upon behind closed doors. Evan stayed still, hesitation clouding his features. I watched hope flicker briefly inside me before he slowly nodded, uncertainty still lingering in his eyes. The candle burned down between us, untouched. I stood up without saying a word, the room shifting around me as I walked toward the door, already knowing I would not stay for the rest of the evening. The door clicked shut behind me, and the sound felt louder than anything said at the table. I waited a moment on the porch, half expecting Evan to step out and call after me. No footsteps followed, no voices, only the kind of silence that makes a decision for you. I walked to my car, gripping the keys tighter than necessary, checking the wet pavement before opening the door. As I pulled away, the wipers pushed the Portland rain in slow arcs across the windshield, each rhythm helping me steady my racing thoughts. The rhythm steadied me more than any words could have. At each stoplight, memories appeared like they had been waiting for their turn. Evan at 8 years old, running across the backyard with a paper crown I made for his birthday. Evan at 12, frosting on his chin while he whispered a wish he made me promise not to repeat. Evan at 17, taller than me but still leaning his head on my shoulder when life overwhelmed him. Now he stood beside a woman who told me no one needed me, and he agreed. My phone lit up on the passenger seat. I reached for it before the light changed. No missed calls, no messages, nothing from either of them. I placed the phone face down and kept driving, letting the quiet settle in as something I could finally hold. The rain followed me home that night, tapping against the windows while I sat at the kitchen table, hands still trembling from the words I had heard. I tried to breathe past the sting, but memories rose faster than the calm I was reaching for. When Evan was 5, I started working double shifts at the little bookstore off Burnside, the one with creaky floors and mismatched lamps. I would pack his dinner into a plastic container and bring him with me for the evening shift. He'd curl up on the carpet between the fiction shelves while I rang customers up. "Mom, read this one," he'd whisper, holding up a book, his eyes half asleep. "Tomorrow." I'd promise. "I need to finish this stack first." He always nodded, trusting me without question. High school came faster than I expected. Evan needed new cleats for soccer, a graphing calculator for math, and gas money for weekend practices. "Mom, I can skip the trip," he once said. Seeing the bill pile on the counter, "No," I told him. You're going. I picked up extra hours, shelving books until my fingers ached, just to keep my promise. When he was accepted into college in Corvallis, he hugged me so tightly I felt my ribs shift. I'll pay you back someday, he said. You'll live your life. I replied, that's enough. Then Harper entered the picture, meeting me during one of Evan's early visits home. She shook my hand lightly, her grip cautious, as if holding on too long might signal something she did not intend. Your apartment is cozy, she said, glancing at the thin curtains I had sewn myself. Evan laughed nervously. Mom likes simple things. Her smile tightened. Of course she does. Little moments followed comments I brushed aside because I wanted to believe they came from nerves, not disdain. At a dinner in their apartment, she handed me a plastic fork instead of a metal one. Oh, she said when I noticed. I thought you wouldn't mind. Evan said nothing. I told myself it didn't matter, but every small dismissal lodged somewhere inside me. A quiet bruise I kept ignoring. I wanted Evan to be happy. I wanted Harper to feel welcomed. I wanted family to mean something softer than the life I had survived. And sitting alone now, the weight of those years pressed down hard, each memory reminding me just how much I had carried without ever expecting anything back. In the weeks after Evan brought Harper home for the first time, I kept telling myself she was simply adjusting. New people need space, I reminded myself, especially when they are joining a family shaped by years of habits and history. But the comments began early, soft enough to pass as kindness if I didn't look too closely. You don't have to bring dessert next time, Harper said once, placing my pie on the far end of the counter. Store-bought is easier for everyone. I opened my mouth to explain that baking was how I showed affection. But Evan stepped in. She's right. Mom, no need to work so hard. The words were his, but the tone wasn't. A month later, I arrived at their apartment for a small dinner. Harper met me at the door with a smile that held no warmth. Next time, text before you come up. It helps us keep the place tidy. I thought I was right on time. I said, you are, Evan added quickly, as though smoothing something he didn't understand. Harper just likes routines. At a family barbecue, I set down a tray of chicken near the grill. Harper was beside me in a moment. Maris, you don't need to bring so much food. It makes people feel obligated. Her voice was light, but something underneath it pressed hard. I was only trying to help, I said, and we appreciate it. Evan echoed, though his eyes flicked toward Harper first. Things I used to do without question, like helping clean up or bringing Evan's favorite casserole slowly, became things I hesitated over. Harper would tilt her head, offering quiet adjustments. Maybe less salt next time. Maybe a smaller portion. Maybe something more modern. Over time, Evan unconsciously began echoing her phrases, a mix of habit and discomfort. Mom, it's not that serious, he would say cautiously. Mom, maybe you're overthinking, he added, unsure. Mom, just try to relax, became a gentle reminder rather than a command. At a holiday gathering, I realized my seat had been moved from my usual place beside Evan to the far corner of the table. Oh, Harper said brightly when I paused. We thought it would be easier this way. Easier for whom? She didn't say. I sat down anyway, telling myself it was only a chair, only a moment. But the moments kept adding up. Quiet pieces of me slipping out of the room while no one noticed I was fading. And I kept smiling through it, calling it understanding, calling it patience, even when the edges of my place in their lives were already beginning to disappear. The morning after my birthday, I woke before the sun, the house still and cold around me. I sat at the dining table with my laptop open, the same table where Evan once did homework while I inventoried bills. My hands hovered above the keyboard for a long time before I finally pressed a key. Their words from the night before were still there, sharp and echoing. Nobody needs your party or you. Evan's quiet agreement, the candle burning down between us. I opened my financial folder, something I rarely looked at except during tax season. Line after line appeared payments I had set up years ago without thinking twice. My name on Evan and Harper's lease, added when they were struggling to qualify for the apartment. The utilities I had left on autopay just until they settle in, Evan had said. The shared car insurance plan I kept because it lowered the rate, and the small loan I co-signed so they could cover deposits and furniture when they married. At the time, each decision felt like love. Now it looked like a map of all the places I still held them up without their awareness or gratitude. My phone buzzed with a text from Evan. Mom, there is something weird with the internet bill. Did the payment not go through? No hello. No check-in. Just the bill. I stared at the message before typing back. I will look into it. I didn't say more. First, I called the leasing office. This is Maris Ellington. I need my name removed from the lease. The woman on the line hesitated. You're listed as the guarantor. Are you sure? Yes. I said, proceed. Next came the power company. I want to stop automatic payments tied to my account. Effective immediately. Yes. One by one, I moved through the list. The insurance agent typed quickly on the other end of the line. You understand the other parties will need to secure their own policy. I do. And the loan, the banker asked a few minutes later. I will no longer be contributing to payments. I told him, please notify the primary borrowers. There was no anger in my voice, no bitterness, only a strange, steady calm I had not felt in years. When I closed the laptop, the house was still quiet, but something inside me shifted. They had told me clearly what they did not need, so I finally decided to believe them. By the end of the week, the first cracks showed up where Harper lived most of her life online. Her Instagram, usually filled with pastel lattes and carefully lit photos of their apartment, shifted. The captions turned vague. Some people make life harder than it needs to be. Loyalty is not what it used to be. A photo of their dark kitchen, the lights off, with the words, "Fix it yourself then." I stared at the posts for a long moment before setting my phone down. I had nothing to say. A text from Evan arrived that afternoon. Mom, there's an issue with the electric bill. It's showing overdue. Could you check it? His tone was flat. No warmth, no mention of my birthday, just the urgent matter at hand. I typed slowly. The account is no longer linked to me. His reply came fast. Why would you do that without telling us? I read the words twice before answering. You said you did not need me. He didn't write back. That evening, my cousin Lila called. Maris, is everything all right with Evan and Harper? He seemed tense earlier. I kept my voice even. They are handling things themselves. Lila hesitated. Harper posted something strange. People are already talking. I could hear the layers in her tone. Concern, curiosity. The start of the small-town whisper chain Portland neighborhoods weren't as immune to as they liked to pretend. Over the next few days, more messages trickled in. Is Evan okay? Is Harper sick? Did something happen with their place? I answered, none of them. Instead, I sat with the quiet, letting their world shift without me holding any corner of it upright. The cracks had been there for years. I had simply stopped covering them. They came late in the afternoon, the kind of hour when the light outside fades, but the house has not caught up yet. The knock was sharp, hurried. Nothing like the way Evan used to tap lightly when he forgot his key as a teenager. I opened the door to find both of them on my porch. Harper in front, Evan a half step behind her, shoulders tight. We need to talk, Harper said. She stepped inside cautiously, glancing at the door as if checking for a reply. But without waiting for my permission, Evan followed, eyes lowered. Mom, why did you do all this? He asked, his voice thin. I closed the door quietly. What exactly are you asking about? Harper spun toward me. The lease, the utilities, the insurance, the loan. Everything is falling apart because you decided to cut us off without warning. You told me you didn't need me. I said, that was different. She snapped. That was about your behavior, not. Evan touched her arm. Harper. Let her speak. She pulled away. No, Evan. She needs to hear this. You knew we depended on you for those payments. You knew it. And you still just pulled the plug. You told me you did not need my support. I repeated, calm settling over me in a way that surprised even myself. Harper's voice sharpened. You're sabotaging our life. I'm stepping out of it. I said. She blinked, thrown for a moment. You're punishing us. I am honoring your words. Evan finally looked up. Mom, you could have talked to us. You could have asked. I did. I said softly, for years. And when I stopped asking, I still showed up, and still helped, and still stayed out of the way. You told me you didn't want that anymore. Evan swallowed hard. It wasn't supposed to get like this. Harper shot him a look. Do not start blaming me. I am not blaming anyone. I said, I am simply stepping back from a responsibility no one acknowledged. Harper crossed her arms. So that's it. You just leave us with all of this. These things were always yours, I said. I was only ever helping. Evan closed his eyes briefly, a small shudder of realization passing through him. Harper, though, stayed rigid, jaw tight, fury simmering beneath her skin. We will figure it out, she said finally. Gathering her purse, with or without you, she walked past me toward the door. Evan hesitated, meeting my eyes for the first time. I did not mean for any of this. I know, I said, but meaning and doing are not the same. He nodded once, then followed her out. The door shut with a soft thud, leaving the house in a stillness that felt less like loss and more like air. I could finally breathe. Chapter 8, A Quieter Life. Finally, my own. The days after their visit passed without messages, without knocks, without explanations, for the first time in years. The quiet felt like space I had finally earned. I began with small steps. I signed up for a volunteer shift at the community pantry on 15th, something I had wanted for years but never made time for. On my first morning, a woman sorting produce looked up and froze. Maris. I blinked. Lydia. Her smile softened. You disappeared. I think I'm reappearing, I said. She laughed. Warm and familiar, and it eased something inside me. We worked together, handing out food, listening to stories, learning people's names. When I went home that afternoon, my body was tired, but in a way that felt grounding rather than draining. I cooked simple meals again, soups, roasted vegetables without anyone commenting on portions or ingredients. I ate slowly, sometimes writing in a small journal about things I remembered or things I no longer wished to carry. In the evenings, I walked along the Willamette River. Some nights, Lydia joined me. Other nights, I walked alone and felt steady in my own company. Gradually, I understood what had been missing. I had built my entire life around being needed, shaping every decision around someone else's comfort. Without that weight, my thoughts were finally clear, quiet, mine. The world did not fall apart without me. It simply settled. And so did I. 1 year later, my living room looked different, not fuller, just warmer. Lydia placed a plate of sliced peaches on the table, while my neighbor Ruth set down a tiny cake she insisted on baking herself. You deserve something sweet today, Ruth said. I smiled. This is more than enough. We sat close, the three of us talking about small things, garden mishaps, a new book Lydia loved, the pantry's upcoming event. There were no raised voices, no careful pauses, no sense of performing family. Halfway through the evening, my phone buzzed on the counter. I reached for it, expecting a spam call, but it was a message. Mom, can we talk sometime? I miss you. Evan's name glowed on the screen. Ruth noticed my stillness. Everything all right? It's from Evan, I said. Lydia's eyes softened. What do you want to do? I read the message again, letting the words settle without letting them take over. Then I typed slowly. I hope you are well. I am not ready for a conversation yet, but I appreciate you reaching out. I hit send before doubt could creep in. The room stayed steady. Nothing cracked open. Nothing twisted inside me. I returned to the table, and Ruth handed me a fork. Ready for your candle? She asked. I nodded. The flame flickered gently, lighting only the space that belonged to me. When I blew it out, I felt no ache, no longing, just a quiet certainty that this birthday, small as it was, finally felt like mine. The evening air along the waterfront felt softer than it used to. I walked slowly, letting the steady lap of the Willamette carry my thoughts instead of drag them down. For the first time in decades, There was no weight pressing between my ribs. No fear of what I might have to fix next. I stopped near the railing, watching a pair of teenagers skate past, laughing like the world had no edges. Once, I would have wondered if Evan ever felt that free. Tonight, I simply breathed. All the years I spent putting myself last had carved something hollow in me. I used to call it devotion. Now I could finally see the truth. Devotion without reciprocity is erosion. And I had let myself wear thin in the name of love. I chose myself this year, not out of anger, out of survival, out of clarity, out of a quiet understanding that being needed is not the same as being valued. My phone stayed in my pocket. No messages, no demands, just the soft hum of a life I had rebuilt one choice at a time. As the sky dimmed, I headed home, light on my feet. If you connected with my story, I hope you'll like and subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach others who might need them too.